So Matt, tell us, we're talking a little bit before the show. We're talking a little bit about your backstory. Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you got into health and fitness.
So like got into like weightlifting when I was about 12. I just like on the neighbor's back porch with some like broken weights. We started lifting weights, and it was a good release, you know. Before I started playing sports, before I started playing like really contact sports like football. And so like that was like my intro like into weights was like an outlet, you know. It was never about like trying to get like the most muscle and just get jacked. It was like I just needed that outlet, that physical outlet, and that kind of grew and went on. I was really an advocate of weightlifting or myself, lifted a lot in high school, and went on to play college football and stuff like that. But shortly after college, I was like 20, just I turned 23. I just had my twin sons. They were a week old. And I went into the hospital because I had like good trouble breathing. My head was swollen up like a big old watermelon. And I went in, got x-rays, and they diagnosed me with pneumonia. My ex-wife at the time went home, left, you know, so they're going to admit me, and she needed to be able to take care of the twins. But what ended up happening was about an hour later, the doctor had came back and told me that that was not pneumonia that they threw up on the x-ray. That was a tumor. They didn't know if it was malignant or benign at the time, but I had to be admitted to surgeries as soon as possible. And that was like about 12 hours later. So like I had like this huge kind of health scare for about 10 months. It ended up being cancerous. It was like non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So I went through all that chemotherapy, my own stem cell transplant. And so then that was like, you know, it was a huge like kind of setback, or well, not necessarily a setback, I say, but like a big blow to somebody that's always been physically super healthy. You know, I never had any issues, was super strong. So like I had to like figure out how to come back from that, you know.
Well, that's a very inspiring story, Matt. And I mean, you are proof that, you know, you can thrive after some kind of diagnosis like that. And I got to think too that part of the reason that you're able to come through it so well is because you were healthy beforehand. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I believe so. You know,
yeah.
I was like a big healthy guy, you know, and that was part of the reason why I was able to go through chemo. And I lost some weight, you know, like a lot of people do. But then I actually ballooned back up from the other drugs, prednisone. So, you know, I lost a lot of muscle, but I was young too. Again, like when somebody's very old and they have this, and they lose a lot, they'll lose a tremendous amount of weight, you know, and waste away, and they can, you know, that can be the end of them from that.
Right.
But like really for me, for what I found in my journey through this, it was my sons and my daughter. So like them and having a bigger purpose and something to focus on, especially with the boys being, you know, fresh, a week old, and they had their episode of like this high risk pregnancy, which I had no idea even existed before, than this thing called twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. So we went through like this huge like ordeal with them with like a surgery in utero that we actually did it was experimental at the time. And we're lucky enough we were at one of the 4 places in the nation that did it, and we were close enough to San Francisco, and we had that done. That's a whole nother story, but that having them and that purpose, you know, just kept me preoccupied. I didn't think about the other option. It wasn't like wasn't there.
Yeah, I get it, and you know, being a father myself, I mean, it really puts a purpose in your life for sure. And speaking of your twin sons, let's just show this picture of them. Let me see if I can scroll that up a little bit. So you just posted this picture recently of you and are those your twin sons, I'm assuming?
Yeah, these are like tall as me now.
Yeah, right? It's interesting. So one of them's quite a bit taller than the other one.
It's all angles, brother. Like we're like
Is it really? Okay,
right?
I'm just checking.
I know. It's like
Being a twin
like,
myself, you know, Shane and I are pretty close in height, so.
yeah, no, they're the exact same height. They're identical twins. That the reason we know that is because of that whole ordeal they went through. That's how I found out. Even before they were born, they're identical.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
but yeah,
tell us.
they look pretty much. They're very much alike. You know.
Yeah.